record on this computer. Recording in progress. So welcome to the Neon Juno virtual booth / Fringe Festival. We have just been simulcasting on Clubhouse and Twitter, which has been just weird. But we are now joined by an absolutely amazing woman entrepreneur, Amanda Duncan. And Amanda is the founder of an edtech company called Scribeasy, and I'll let her tell you more about that really soon. But it's so exciting to have you here, and we're going to be talking about creativity and the creative process and how you can use creativity to go beyond convention. And aside from it being an absolute delight to have you here on stage with me, creativity is one of the core elements of our framework around exponential leadership. In my opinion, it's a critical skill for leaders and for young people who are growing up in the system, and it's just the way that we'll learn to add more and more value in this world. So Amanda, welcome. It's great to hear you. Why don't you tell us, give us a little bit of foundation about your business and what you do?
Thank you. Well, I think what I'd love to talk about today about how it can take people beyond the convention is to understand what creativity is. And I thought I'm not one to normally talk too much about myself, but actually, as we're all humans and our career trajectories are really important. And I thought perhaps my own background was a good example of how creativity can help people go beyond their expectations, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So I wanted to sort of think first of all, just to define what creativity is, and it's, if you look up creativity, it's the use of imagination to create original ideas or to create something new. Really inventiveness. It might not be groundbreaking, like Galileo or something in that way, but it's a twist or a turn or just a slant, something different. It's original thinking. And I really hope that the takeaway from today would be why creativity should be a strategy for education and employers. And by demonstrating on a personal level, that might illustrate it and show, not tell. But ultimately, I think the thing about creativity is how it brings transferable skills and adaptability, and which is one of the most important predictors now of today's job market. There's a lot changing, as we know. We've just seen COVID, and we've seen everyone rushing to be online, people having to change very traditional routes to market, the way that we've sold, the way that we're engaging with each other. It's gone digital, but also just how do humans, how we're connecting with each other, how we're reaffirming and reevaluating careers in the workplace. I think creativity is a really potent mix for the skills that are required now. And it's how to start building that into education. I think I'd like to just say my background is actually from mud to technology, and my success has been down to an element of luck, adversity, a mentality that was cultivated really at art school. I went to Ravensbourne College of Design and Communications, and later to the Royal College of Art, where I did a master's in ceramics and glass. Actually, my mother was always quite disparaging about me being a potter. I actually left home very young, was in a difficult situation from around the age of 15, but it was a start in life that I've needed. And actually, it's gone on to benefit me, ceramics, in ways that one could never imagine. And if you take a piece of mud, just think about it, you take it on a journey of transformation. And just a little piece of mud, and then the confidence to take that, extrude it, turn it into something that you know, is useful, and learn about science. You know, it took me through the periodic table, it took me into chemistry, it took me into surface pattern, architectural design. I won awards, for example, with London Underground for pattern making. Suddenly, the simplest and most humblest of trades opens up so much for me. And actually, I got very good at it. And the reason I got good at it was because I became obsessed. And it was something that really captured my heart. And the beauty of the creativity of that job or that experience was that there was tremendous fulfillment in my life as a maker, not least, you know, as a worker. I was, for example, building stuff for Liberties and for different architects. I was hugely productive. So within the workplace, because I was someone that worked for different potteries at different times, worked for different universities teaching, I was a passionate worker. So I really delivered as a, you know, as an employee. After about 18 years in ceramics and teaching from special needs right through to degree level and further education, I think the thing that I wanted to reinvent myself, and actually again the creativity skills, because I had the ability to not be frightened to start. And I think the beauty of making something, for example, on a potter's wheel, is if it's very unforgiving. If you do something wrong, it collapses, but you learn how to push clay to its limit. And it became very metaphorical that actually it gives you tremendous resilience as a creative practitioner. And I'm not frightened at looking at objects or a piece of information from different angles, from different perspectives, top, bottom, inside out. I had that ability, which has allowed me to reinvent myself. And after about 18 years in ceramics, I decided I wanted to move into advertising. And I managed to get in through the sort of back door, starting to do prop design, set design, using my creativity to, I was on a Volvo ad, for example, and my chemistry background helped with formulating liquids so that they would perform well under cameras in different fluids, different mediums. And suddenly I realized that I had something beyond, you know, art school. And then I got into advertising and ended up being a VFX TV producer, and ended up employing people, managed to look at pipelines, industry pipelines. For example, we were using a lot of different sorts of software, and I could see how different sorts of operators and creative operators, we could make the company more productive because of the way we could rearrange the pipelines. And actually a lot of jobs that the company I was working for, that they would turn away, I could see because of different sorts of mindsets of people, and I could pick up on the different sorts of creative levels of operators. Those that were, we get a lot of technology today. It doesn't mean the tech is only as good as the operator. And again, I think this is something that's really key going forwards. There's so much coming through. Tech is available. People can use editing software. There's software for doing operations, all sorts of things, you know, in the medical world, but it's only as good as the human. And so to have that creative confidence and that creative curiosity is what will start to elevate humans above, you know, the AI that's coming in, which is a very positive thing. Some people are very, I think, as I'm now working in AI, can feel very challenged by it. But actually what it is actually elevating the possibilities for humans to rise above the menial kind of jobs and be more involved and using their brains in a very different way. So it's very, very exciting in that way. So going back to me, not usually my favorite topic really, And me as a reinventor, I think ceramics set me out as somebody now. When I left advertising, which was 7 years ago, I started moving into teaching, and started to develop what is now Scribeasy, which is a B2B2C creative writing platform that works for museums and libraries and helps children connect to collections and use their imagination, but also powers educational data to help museums and libraries serve their audiences better. So that's a little potted history of how I've gone from mud to technology, but how the learning of one process has helped me really, transform my life and be able to reinvent myself. And I did read actually earlier, I was looking up McKinsey, for example, have done lots of research into what the jobs of the future are going to look like. And the sort of traditional trajectory of people going to a job and being an accountant for the rest of their lives, that's really changing. People are going to need to move around and be very flexible. So I think it's very encouraging that I think it was around in 2001, the curriculum moved to STEM, science, technology, English and maths. And I've seen, I think I'm correct, it was around 2020, we've now got the A has come back, science, technology, English, arts and maths. And I just cannot impress how important it is. I think people misunderstand what creativity is, and they pigeonhole it to thinking that it's an artist and an easel. But I just hope that by demonstrating my background from mud to technology, how those fundamental skills, once set in your brain for thinking, how to think, you can apply yourself so much, across the board.
I can see how fired up you are about the topic, but almost that when you describe the collision between different subjects at college, so it was not just the idea of what would be made, you had to learn about the chemistry, about the physics, about all of those elements together, so that the art was an expression of a really scientific process that helped it to come to life. And also in the way that you talked about the advertising, that art helped, it wasn't so much an expression, it was a tool then for the science to work in a different way. So
yes.
And so it feels like it's a virtuous circle that goes up, where science fuels art fuels and pushes science, which fuels art, and really expands those possibilities. But go.
I was going to say that actually, just touching back on that, Claire, it was interesting because I actually failed my maths initially a couple of times doing my O-level, and yet I really struggled. And yet when I went through the ceramics route, and it's just full of maths and chemistry, I got a first-class degree and then a master's. But it was I think it's how we learn that makes the difference. And I could have been a statistic that, didn't succeed, because on the surface of initially coming out of school at 15, I might not have got my my maths O level, but it didn't mean it was a reflection on actually my ability. And I think what's really exciting today, well, for me as a tech, and that's why I'm so passionate about it, is that because of the way technology is opening up so much more possibility for people that in the past might not have found their passion, because they haven't been able to learn in the way that suits them, or through a medium that suits them. I'm a big believer, and it's something that we do in Scribeasy. For example, we're tackling literacy, but we're massively tackling it through the creative topic that you learn. So we're helping children learn their 15,000 plus words through the topics that they love. And it's really fascinating when you start to see, you know, what children want to write about, but how it doesn't really matter what topic you're learning it through, but because they're passionate, they keep coming back and being very switched on and engaged, and their engagement is the thing. I became really good at ceramics because I was just so engaged. I consumed it, and that's really exciting when you start talking to, for example, children who have not succeeded at school, you know, pupil referral schools, highly intelligent kids. They've been unfortunate, they've been disadvantaged backgrounds. I think vocabulary, for example, is just something that you're exposed to. And if you haven't had those opportunities, you know, those kids don't get the start in life that they've needed. And it's a bit with learning, if they haven't clicked, the topic hasn't clicked with them. And so for us, that's, yeah, I'm really excited as a founder. It keeps me going. It's not been an easy journey. Creativity has taught me a lot of resilience. And Claire, you know, as one of my mentors with, you know, Juno, absolutely amazing, because you really appreciate and understand the, you know, the journey that is hard for founders, but you have to be, it's not for the faint-hearted, and you have to be dedicated to the cause. So it's a wonderful thing for me to be passionate about this. It keeps me going.
So let me just for the most stick with the concept of creativity, because, you know, we'd pulled through the through applying creativity, children, and all of those data points are coming through. So they're learning literacy by stealth in a way, because you're tapping into that fire, that engagement. And you touched on it there. Creativity seems to go beyond that expansive range of data, but to also teach around confidence and resilience. I wonder if you could, you know, expand on that. Is there anything that you've seen among the children or from your story that creativity really helped you to lift?
Yeah, I mean, I immediately, a little boy springs to mind. I say little, he was 14, and he was in he'd been excluded from a pupil referrals unit as well. So he was actually at home. And we worked together. He could not read or write, so he told me. And I asked him to help me with developing Scribeasy, so he became a tester for me. And it was actually interesting that he knew a lot more than he said he knew. He spent the first session together telling me why he wasn't at school and that he had anger problems. And, you know, there was a boy there that really wanted to feel connected to kids. And actually, when he saw Scribeasy, he wanted to consume the stories that other kids had written. And that was wonderful. And then he dictated, he made a picture with the platform, and he made a picture and he dictated his story. He had it read back. He suddenly said, oh, that word's not quite right. And he recognized that there were some misspellings. And before you know it, he'd written a story, a boy that said he couldn't write. And afterwards, I said to him, how did you find that? What do you think of that story? And he turned to me and he said, I didn't think I was that clever. And I found that really moving and such a powerful moment. It's really stuck with me. I think for me, maybe because of, you know, we're not all born with, you know, very privileged lives, or, you know, different, you know, life is challenging. We all come from different backgrounds. I always feel there, but the grace of God, or, you know, you never know, do you, where you're going to start from. But it was a very powerful moment. And I think resilience is, if you just see that little spark happen in somebody, and I think we're all tied into this together, because those stats, those boys, those children become statistics if they don't fit in, you know, if they slip through the net, and that affects us all, you know. So it's yeah, I feel resilience is a a very important thing that children are allowed to discover, you know, through school, through learning to fail at an early age, but learning to feel supported, but are learning to not be spoon-fed, you know, but learning to feel that it is okay to not be perfect, you know.
So let me lead into this next question, which is, I've suddenly made you Minister for Schools. Now, what would be your first direction for schools in order to bring out creativity in the curriculum?
I think I would allow within the curriculum, I think it's quite hard to teach a curriculum to probably 30% of children. And I would allow for curriculums to be interest-led and allow children, the thing that I remember thinking when I got to art school was, why did I have to wait this long to learn how to think? And I would allow that. I read a report, I'm sorry, I don't have it to hand, but NASA released a report around 1999. And it was around, they did a test and they showed how children, everyone went in as a sort of near genius. And actually, by the time they came out of primary school, they'd lost their inner creativity. They'd lost quite a lot of them. Had lost their creative confidence. And I think it was not so much they hadn't grown in knowledge, but it was actually the thing they were testing for was that ability to be able to feel confident to apply knowledge. Children became more concerned around, is it all right to do this? Can I write it like this? Because they're trying to fit into a norm. And I used to see it a lot with ceramics. When I was teaching at degree level, used to have some quite fearsome discussions about who should get a first. And it was very, very easy. And I appreciate, you know, with literacy, you've got to have standards, for example. But it was the same with ceramics. Now, I'm just pulling a mug here to hand. Now, it's very easy to say, do we give that a first to that person? Because they've produced something that's, you know, amazing, or you know, it's functional, it's like what everyone else has done, but it's also technically correct. Or do we give, I haven't got a lump here, but you know, do we give that sort of what would really go into win you know, an award, an arts award, would we give that a first or not? And it was quite interesting how people, and at teaching phases, they're a bit nervous to take risks. So I think allowing children to have more control of their curriculum, more control of their own evaluation, how well do they actually feel they've done, seeing their own targets, sharing more of the educational, letting them teach teachers, letting them become, and I'm sure lots of schools are doing this, but I think to give teachers more and more tools so that they've got allowed to be more creative and allowed to teach students to teach them in the classroom, and let teachers sit back a little bit would be really quite powerful.
Really powerful for the children, for the teaching staff, the schools, and you can see how attainment would, you know, and I know it's not the only measure, but you could see how that would completely overturn the current model, but help children to expand, and how that would work its way through economically, you know, in terms of business growth. So we're going to wrap up, but I want to ask you one more question. I have to. So it has been so fun and fascinating to follow your journey so far, but kind of what does the next 6-9 months have in store for Scribeasy, and how can people find out more about, you know, where you're going and creativity?
Well, we're excited. We're a small team, but we recently, it was wonderful for us during COVID. We were recipients of a 100% funded application from Innovate UK. So we've been able to take our story writing platform to connect with museums. So we're starting to talk to chains of libraries. We have a model for libraries. We are really about impact as a business. We want to be able to use technology to bring more opportunities to especially the sort of disadvantaged communities. So we're developing systems so that children can create books, become published young authors, and to build communities, but especially within the communities that you would not be expected. We're also very excited about the way that our new platform can open up youth creation schemes, because we are training up 16-year-olds and upwards, young people, again, who probably wouldn't have had this sort of job opportunity to come in and learn how to work with museums and bring objects to life through a young person's eyes, and help museum curators reach younger children working with young people.
It's just all the spin-offs, there's just so many sparks that come from that kind of one platform, and you can see how that fuels the stories that inspire others, that help others to change, and the idea that kind of be able to buy books that children have actually written as opposed to being guided through is phenomenal. So Amanda, thank you so much for agreeing to join me on the stage today. We're going to upload this to YouTube, and for everybody who's joined there's a little bit of a bio about Amanda, as you've heard today, that only really scratches the surface of what she's done in her career today, and also the surface of the potential of the platform Scribeasy. It's such an exciting piece of kit. I encourage you to go and have a look. And without further ado, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Claire. Loved it. Thank you.